Okay, so today we're going to discuss the last two particles. So the last two particles, the seventh grammatical case and the subgroup of the seventh grammatical case. So after this, we'll be done with the particle used in place of la. We might spend one class, I think one class will be enough. We'll spend one class on doing some questions regarding the seventh grammatical case, during some exercise on the particles used in place of la. So therefore, so in case that we will have a certain type of doubts regarding these. Okay, then the seventh grammatical case and the time case, which is take-up, take-up seventh grammatical case and subgroup of seventh grammatical case, that is the time case. So probably today's class won't be as long as our usual class. So if we have time, we will clarify some of the questions. And if you have doubts regarding the previous classes to this point on the particles used in place of la, then you can ask the question. Okay, so namietumba tene just so namietumba tene. Seventh grammatical case, also called the locative case, but not the most perfect translation, and not the most common translation. Normally, they just state it as the seventh grammatical case, and then when it comes to the name, they would just say they would just transliterate the entire term, which is in Tibetan, that is tene. They'll just transliterate it as tene. So the seventh grammatical case. So up to this point, we have studied the first grammatical case, the second, the fourth, the subgroup of second, now the seventh and subgroup of seven. So out of the 8 grammatical cases, we are already covering 4 in here. And then out of the 8 dependent particles, we are already covering 2 now. So seventh grammatical case, the locative case. Nami dumbani. Kang shik, kang la. Kang shik, kang la. Nepaham, yopar, tumpe la duen kintrala, teneser. Kang shik, kang la nepaham, yopar tumpe la duen kintrala, teneser. So we must understand these two, kang, which is a general particle. So the meaning of these two. So kang is a general particle which can be used as what, which, when, where. So this is actually a particle that is when either used in question, so mostly in interrogative case, is a very pervasive. It's a very pervasive particle because it pervades upon person, place, time. So person, place, time, and things. So everything that is a name or anything that's a name or a noun can be represented by the word kang. So kang shik, kang la. So we must understand which of these kang we are talking about, because we don't know which kang we're actually talking about. In the seventh grammatical case, there are two types of kang. And to understand these two types of kang is very important, because these two are also two main components of a statement of seventh grammatical case. So when it comes to the statement of the seventh grammatical case, these two become a very important part. So kangshik means whichever or whatever as an object. Kang la means whichever or whatever position. So the first kang talks about a phenomena or an object. So whichever or whatever object. The second kang la tells us a position, whichever or whatever position. So the thing that gives us the understanding that the second one is the position and the first one is the object or phenomena is this name or this term, which is ne. Kang la ne. So we have the word ne, which means situated. Kang la ne means whichever position where it is situated. So since we see that the usage of this particular term is associated with this kang and not with this kang in the statement, we understand that this one has to do with the position, whereas this one has to do with the object and not the position. One must understand that a place could be understood as a phenomena, but that place becomes a position when we refer to it as a place where something is situated or something exists. The understanding of something existing at a certain place makes it a position of that thing. Other than that, if there is no reference to something that is situated at that place, this particular thing just becomes a place and not a position. So therefore, when we talk about this kang, which talks about the object or the phenomena, so object, phenomena, sometimes we might have places here. We might have places, but just because we have places here doesn't mean that this is the position. I will give you I think I have already provided examples, and with the examples I will clarify this. Kangshik, whichever or whatever an object. Kangla, whichever or whatever position. So it shows an object situated at a position. Neba, to be positioned, to be situated. Yueba, to exist. So, kangshi kangla nebam, yueba dunbe. Dunba means to show or to depict. So it's to show or to depict. Ladun kita, more like ladun ki juba or. So it's a, so let me change this because it makes more sense. So it's a statement. So it's a statement. You must understand that this is a statement. So it's a statement. What type of statement is it? It's a statement that has to do with the particle used in place of la. So it's a statement that particularly deals with, or it's a statement that is a usage case of the particle used in place of la, in a way that it shows that something, which is whatever an object, is situated somewhere, whichever the position. So whatever object at whichever position. So showing a certain type of phenomena or object existing at a certain position. And such statement which uses the particle used in place of la to show that, or show the relation between these two things, the object and its position, is known as the seventh grammatical, a statement of seventh grammatical case, the locative case, or the seventh grammatical case. Kangshi kangla nebam yopartumbe la dungi Drubpay tinesir. So, which or whatever an object positioned, or which or whatever an object that is positioned or existing at which or at whatever position it is. And this is shown by the usage of the particle used in place of la, is called the locative case. Okay, so namye dumba tene ki joba la nyebar tu tsanggobe chashi. So namye dumba, which is the seventh grammatical case, tene, which is the locative, which is the locative case. Joba means statement. Nyebar tu tsanggobe means necessary. And component is chashi. So the necessary components of the seventh grammatical case statement. So these are the necessary components of the seventh grammatical case statements. And the components are first the kangla tembishi, the position on which the object depends to exist. So it's the position where the object exists. La dungi the particle used in place of la. Kangiten bichu, the dependent object. So whichever dependent object that depends on the position to exist, and the relation is shown by the particle used in place of la. Kangla tembishi, position. La dungi particle used in place of la. Kangiten bichu, the dependent object. So this is what we understand as the key components, or the necessary components of the seventh grammatical case statement. So whenever we want to identify a statement to be of the seventh grammatical case, we have to identify each of the components some of the components are so these three, and when we try to analyze these components of a statement, if it contains the position on which the object depends to exist, the particle used in place of la, and finally, the object which is dependent on that position. If we're able to establish those things in a sentence, then we consider that to be the statement of the seventh grammatical case. Okay, so in this case, we see Pötu Kengri. Kengri is the snow mountain, Pö, Tibet. So Pötu Kengri means snow mountains in Tibet. So since we're dealing with position, we know that more or less the particles are going to be preposition of place. So when it is preposition of place for the seventh grammatical case, we must understand that for some position, the preposition is going to be in. For some, it's going to be on, depending on what type of position we're talking about. If it's a position on which something is kept upon, then it's going to use the preposition as on. If it's something that something can exist in, it will be in. If it's something that something is at, then we will understand it as at, depending on the actual position. So here we see that the first sentence we have Pötu Kengri. This is the position. So this is the position where the phenomena or the particle exists, or upon which the phenomena or particle depend to exist. This is the connective particle, the particle used in place of la. And this is the phenomena, the snow mountain. So, Pötu Kengri, snow mountain in Tibet. So we see that in this particular statement, there are three portions or three components. The first one is the position on which the object exists, the connective particle, the particle used in place of la, and then finally the snow mountain. Then the second one is Menkang to Memba. Menkang being the hospital, Memba being the doctor. And in this particular statement, we understand that to as a preposition that is at. So doctors at the hospital. So Menkang, the position, Memba, the object which exists at that position, and to, the connective particle. Chongker to Mitsok. Chongker, which is the city, to, currently as in, and Mitsok could be understood as the crowd. So the crowd in the city, the crowd in the city. Chongker to Mitsok, the crowd in the city. So we see the position is the city, and the object is the crowd, Mitsok, which could be understood as gathering of people, so it becomes the crowd. Then Lamna, Langkhor. Lam, that is the road, and Na, which in this case becomes on. And Langkhor is bus, so bus on the road. The position is the road. The object is the bus. And the particle is na. So lamna langkhor. So this is the example. So this is the seventh grammatical case, an example of seventh grammatical case. So okay, so I'll so you may think that okay, so it shows the position of an object and the phenomena. And we have already understood that if it has to do with the object and the object and the action, we already know that if we were to say the position on which an action has been done, that has to be the second grammatical case. Though one may argue that the object is a position in this case. So that is the reason why the seventh grammatical case only deals with phenomena and object, object and position. It deals with only object and position, and not with object, position and action, because it's already been, the position and action has already been discussed during the second grammatical case. So the first one is snow mountain in Tibet. Position is Tibet, and the snow mountain is the object. The second one is Menkhang to Memba. Memba being the doctor at hospital being the position. Chongkir to Mitso, crowd at city, or crowd in city. Crowd being the object, city being the position. Lamna langkhor, road being the position, and bus being the in this case, bus being the object. Now the subgroup of the seventh grammatical case. The subgroup of the seventh grammatical case, the time case, sekap. So Tse talks about the moment or time when something happens. And Cup talks about the at the moment. It's more like moment. So it has to do with the time case. So Namye Dumbe Nangse Sekap. Namye Dumba means seventh grammatical case. Nangse means subgroup. And Sekap is time case. So the subgroup of seventh grammatical case, the time case. Sekap ni Namye Dumbe Nangse Shila. Du Zor Dumbe La Dunki Chubala Sekap Ser. So Sekap ni, which is the time case, is Namye Dumbe Nangsen Shila is the subgroup of the seventh grammatical case, being the subgroup of seventh grammatical case. A statement that mainly shows time is called the time case. So, definition. a subgroup of seventh grammatical case, a statement that mainly shows the time is, so it's a statement that mainly shows the time of what you are doing, time of when you're doing it. So time of an action that you're performing, or any time in particularly, is called the time case. So if a statement is particularly showing a time, it may not show the time of an action, but if it's showing a time, and then in some case it may show an action that has been done during that time. In some case, it is a description of the characteristic or description of a period of time. All of these are seventh grammatical case. Sorry, the subgroup of seventh grammatical case, the time case. The necessary components of the subgroup of seventh grammatical case, time case. So the components which are necessary or important. That must be there in the subgroup of the seventh grammatical case, the time case. First, tu, which is time. Then, la doing the particle used in place of la. Then chawa, which is action, but more like action word in this case. It could be an actual action word, or it could be to be verb. So when we talk about to be verb, the thing is that in the component, we may not have the to be, but it is something that as a confirmation of to be is added upon this statement. So what do I mean by this? So for example, it is very cold during the night. Here we don't particularly, we're not particularly stating an action that is done during the duration, during the time that is duration of time that is the nighttime. But here we're describing the particular period of time. We're saying that, oh, at the period of time which we define as the night, it is very cold. So there is no action here. But then we see that here we are describing the night. So the second example, this statement, we see that which is afternoon or noon. Here is to go to school. So now we have an action here. We have an action here, which is to go to school. So here we are showing that an action of going to school is done during the time period that is the noon. So in this case, it's not describing the time period, but rather showing that an action was done during that time period. Tuma means many. Gewele means virtuous deed. Che means to do. Tsejonga means the 15th. So tsejonga gewele mangpo che. Tsejonga gewele tuma che. To do many different, to do many virtuous deeds on the 15th of the month. So here we see that the action of accumulating, action of completing many virtuous deed is done during the time period when it is the 15th of the month. So here we see the time and the action. So here we see that to be verb here, we have used re. So what happens is that it states that during the month of May, it is rainy season. So therefore here we don't show an action that is done during this period of time. We're just describing the period that is during the 5th of the month of the year, 5th month of the year. And we say that, oh, during this, which is the 5th month of the year, it is rainy season here. So to be verb. So when we talk about time, unlike the 7th grammatical case, where it's only about the position and the object, the position and the phenomena, or the object phenomena, or sorry, it's the object or the phenomena and the position. In the subgroup that is the time case, we see that it can be used with a characteristic word, or it could be also used with an action word that is done during that time. So both action and characteristic, you can either define that time, or you can say that something was done during that time. Whereas for the 7th grammatical case, we see that only the position and the object, which depends on that position. Because if we talk about the position and the action, it is already being taught during the, taught during the 2nd grammatical case, where we talk about object over action over object case. So that is the reason why 7th grammatical case only shows position and the phenomena depending on that position. And the time case talks about characteristic of a period, defining a characteristic of a period, as well as action at that particular time or duration or that period. Okay, so we have some examples here that I would like to discuss. So first we have pönadro. So we have pönadro. So here we see that the action is to go, and the object of this action is Tibet. So go to Tibet. So this is the 2nd grammatical case. The speaking sound becomes louder. And since the one that is going louder and the object that is changing and progressing is the sound being louder. So this is the that itself case. Nasang. There is a very thick forest on the mountain. So we see that the phenomena that exists upon the mountain is the forest, and the position where it exists is the mountain. So this is the 7th grammatical case. Yarkar metomang. So there are many flowers during the summer. So the duration is the summer, and the phenomena that is shown, that is the description that is given, is that there's a lot of flowers. So this is the subgroup of the 7th grammatical case, the time case. Here we see that duk, which means being difficult, being hard, being with a lot of struggles. And kebalopetu means at the time when the scholar studies. So at the time when the scholar studies is the time period when the scholar is studying. And so we see that the relation is of the description and the period. So therefore, this has become the subgroup of seventh grammatical case, the time case, peu to permis. Tibetans in Tibet. So we see that this is a relation between the position, and the object dependent on that position. So this is the seventh grammatical case. Sangyesu Gyabchi, which is to take refuge in Buddha. So we see that the action of taking refuge is targeted towards the Buddha. So therefore, this is the object, action over object case, so second grammatical case. Object being Buddha, action being to take refuge. Meyutu chokor. So it states that because there is fire, there is heat. So we see that the reason why it is hot, or reason why there is heat here, is because of the fire. So it's the reason case, the fourth grammatical case. Xingche to song, going to cut wood. So we see that the action is to cut, action is to go, but the purpose of going is to cut trees. And by going, it inferentially harms, so it harms, it's not stated here, but inferentially it harms the tree by cutting it. So therefore, purpose case, the fourth grammatical case. And yes, so this is the final usage cases, the seventh grammatical case and the time case. And with this, we are done with the particle used in place of la, at least for the tree of excellent speech. We're done with it. So now, before I clarify the answer to some of the questions in the group, does anyone have questions regarding today's lesson? So does anyone have questions regarding today's lesson? After that, I'll clarify the questions that were asked, or at least one of them, and the other one I'll just do a little more research to give everyone a better answer and more satisfactory answer to that. Because it's always better to just find that reference to some of the things. Some of the answers could be given by reasoning, and some by providing reference. So does anyone have a question regarding so what is that? So one of the questions that was asked, which is about the title of the text, which was authored by Mitra Gyana. Is this, I still haven't found it in English. So I've tried both the Tibetan as well as the name, the Tibetan name, as well as the Indian name, but it just doesn't come out. So therefore, So I've already provided the examples for different type of statements. So I think this is the question, but if I have not answered it, please resend it in the group so that I can answer it. And now does anyone have more questions regarding today's lesson? Does anyone have questions regarding today's lesson of the 7th grammatical case and of the time case? Okay, so no questions regarding the 7th grammatical case and the time case. So let me attempt to answer the question by Petuniala and the question by Urila, which was talking about in which case. And definitely it is the 6th grammatical case, but it is the 6th grammatical case where it is the case of emphasis. But then I will find the actual reference from a text, probably from the text by Mitragana, to support this case. So for the question by Urila, the answer is the 6th grammatical case. The answer is 6th grammatical case, and the usage of the 6th grammatical case in this case is on emphasis. So using 6th grammatical case particle for emphasis. This is the answer, but I will provide the reason why I still consider this to be an incomplete answer is because I have not provided the reference from the text of Mitragana. I'll just go through it and then I'll search for it, and then I'll post the reference. Other than that, so in this case, no action, no intention. No intention in this case, if you mean the 7th grammatical case and the 6th grammatical case, no intention, no action, no intention at all. For the case of 7th grammatical case, no action. For the case of the subgroup, yes, action, but no intention. So, but then, like I've already said, that the statement can be made more elaborate. So a statement can have more information. It could be a statement of a single grammatical case and then provide only the information that the grammatical case is capable of providing, or it could contain a few of the grammatical case in one entire narration, and then it could provide more information. So just the statement of the subgroup of 7th grammatical case and the 7th grammatical case, no intention. But if you add other things, like for example, if you start adding other statement which may have the intention, then yes, then that entire narration or statement will have intention, but by themselves, which is by only the 7th grammatical case and subgroup of 7th grammatical case, no intention. And for 7th grammatical case, no action also. So let me attempt the answer. Let me attempt answering the question. So the question was that in previous classes, so in previous Tibetan language classes, there is a distinction between the self and others, and the distinction is made for the selection of companion word for verb or verb. So selection of either the auxiliary verb like re, ye, in, or in order to choose which type of verb that we are using. And this is true, but let me elaborate more, and then let me give you more reason why when it comes to yin, we still stick to, when it comes to you, that is this listener, we're still using yin and not re. Okay, so when it comes to the distinction of the self and other, so in Tibetan we always talk about these things, especially in the gender sign. We have it in the gender sign where we strongly talk about these things. So the first thing, so when we talk about these things in gender sign, we have so in any sentence, the things that we may have is the subject, both the primary and the secondary subject. Then we have the action. It can be of, like we already learned, it can be of 4 different variation. The last having 2 variation, which is of the imperative case, but for the tense, it could have 3 different variation of the present, the past, and the future. And then we have the object of the action. So the distinction in the gender signs is done on this basis. So it states that the subject, be it the primary subject or secondary subject, and the action, in case, so without talking about the different tenses, the action, the subject, primary or secondary subject, all of this becomes the object of self. That is Mobuda. And then the object of the action becomes Mobushin. So object of others is the it's the object of the action. Mobushin, Mobuda, Mobushin. So this is one distinction. The other one has to do with the tenses. So the present tense is always self. The past and the future tenses, other. So this is the distinction of object for self and others on the basis of the 3 times or the 3 tenses. And this is also shown very apparently by the usage of the pronoun that is this and that. So for things that are near, this, for things that are far, that. So when it comes to distance, the thing that is that has to do with this is so for self, and that is for others. So therefore, things which are near, more associated with the self, and things which are more distant to be understood as other. Then for the object that is possessed by self and the objects possessed by others, then when it comes for tenses, the things which are in the present tense, the action in the present tense is self, the action in the past or future is other. So therefore we use this to understand understand the distinction between the object of self, the object of other, on the basis of which we also differentiate the action as transitive and intransitive. On the basis of self and others, the action which is related to the self, meaning the action which is related to the subject, the primary and secondary subject, transitive. The object, the action in which it is not related to self, but to the object of other, which is the object, the action of object is intransitive. So the action of the subject and the action of the object, the direct translation. For that, we also make the distinction between self and other. And this might be true for the cases like yin and re also. But the thing is that both yin and re are conformational conformational particle as well as to be verb. And then while usage of these, the very definition tells us that yin should be used with, so the definition. So this is the definition of yin. So Mao Bo Rang means the one who speaks, which is the speaker. Tang Hayu Ki Tön La Drubpay. Hayu means the person to whom we are speaking to. That is the second person, the listener. So therefore, it's a to be verb. So it is a to be verb. And this is shown by, this is also shown by definition. It says that, it states that nida chengi sikjor ki thala yintang re kangru jas, which means a statement that is on the basis of the emphasis case, where you're emphasizing something, which is to be, emphasized to be, you either use hin or re. So both of these are, like we said, emphasis or conformational state particles. There's no doubt in that. But now how do we use it? And the definition states, which states that for the case of the speaker and the case of the listener, you use yin. As an understanding of person being self and others, definitely you is other. But in the context of the usage of the particle itself, so it doesn't say that you is self. It just states that the speaker and the listener. So it only differentiates. So it differentiates the person in three categories, which is the first person speaker, the second person listener, and finally the third person, which is neither the speaker nor the listener. And on that basis, the usage of hin and re is established. So it states that one who is the speaker and the listener, for that use hin. And then the same definition continues. It says Mao Bodang, Xianbei means other than. So for the meaning of a person that is neither the speaker nor it is the listener, you use re. So therefore, we see that this is how it is used. It is either used to show confirmation of possession, or the authority of possession, or it can be understood as to be verb. And the question continues that states that, okay, it states that exception, only when we are asking question, we can use him. But the question that I asked is that if the question contains him, we know that when we ask questions regarding the third person, we say, we don't say retam. Sajatir kang shui yuretam. So we see that when we are using re for the third person in the question, we have the answer also as re. But when we are using the question for the second person, that is the listener, there's no reason for it to be re in the answer because it's confirmational. So both yin and re has the ability to confirm. And like I said, even though as a narrator, as a speaker, the listener becomes other, but in this case, the classification is based on listener, speaker, and other than listener and speaker. So those who are currently engaged in the context of communicating, and those who are not in the communication, those who are not aware of the communication. So those of whom are aware of this communication are currently listening to this communication happening. We're using in as a confirmational particle. But those who are not part of this conversation, we consider them other than being a participant of this conversation, and then we use re. So therefore, answer being provided by the definition at this moment. So we are providing the answer based on the definition. So therefore, according to the definition, it is used with speaker and the listener, whereas re is used with the third person. So therefore, on the basis of this and on the basis of why we are differentiating, so the first one was to state why we are differentiating object as self and others in Tibetan. So thus to clarify why we're doing it, and that is based on the text, which is the gender sign. So that was that. What it did is that it clarified why we are classifying objects as self and others. And the second one, by the usage of the definition, trying to establish that in is used with the second person and not with just the first person. So therefore, I hope that two of these arguments have clarified the statement of why it should be like this. And so this is my answer for the first question by Petunia. So thank you very much for the question, and very important question. And the thing is that we're going to understand in depth about these particles that we say, yin and re, and all of these in the gender sign. Because in gender sign, we have different types of verb. We introduce different types of verb. Gender sign is more or less about tenses and verbs. So the biggest portion of the teaching is about tense and verb. And the concept of the object of self and object of other, and the action of subject and action of object, and tenses are the main teaching of the gender signs, in which we will dive even deeper in those verb according to gender signs. So therefore, this establishment, which was the answer to the question, was done in accordance to first, the gender signs, the rules by gender signs, and second, by the definition of the term itself. So I hope that this clarifies why I have stated it in this way. This is the reasoning why I'm using hin and not re. So I hope that this clarifies this. And then if we have more questions, please post them. Because the more questions you post, the more doubts we have, and then we will have more opportunity of understanding this type of statement. So thank you very much for the question. Now the question of Urila, very incomplete answer. Yes, the sixth grammatical case, grammatical case used as emphasis, in which we use we have these things like in, which is conformational, right? So we already said that in is conformational. So in and re being conformational, used with emphasis case of the sixth grammatical case. So it's one of the usage of the sixth grammatical case. We'll study that there are actually few of those usage when it comes to the sixth grammatical state. So sixth grammatical case. So where is it used? It's used in the sixth grammatical case. How? Used as emphasis case. So emphasis case under sixth grammatical case. Okay, so but still, I will provide more clarification with the reference from the text of Mitragana. So this is the answer to the second question, currently incomplete. We'll continue answering it. And the answer to the first question has been provided. And then if more question arises, most wonderfully, and then we will try to clarify more. And then we'll see, we'll try to understand why hin or why re much clearly. Okay, so so now now we're at the point of reading. So, and the assignments, we talked about assignments, right? So assignments will be provided tomorrow for the entire so let me try something here tomorrow. You will receive your assignments tomorrow. So I'll just try to use a new method of making the assignments. And tomorrow it will be on the entire subject, entire chapter of the particle used in place of la. Lasso. So now does anyone wants to read the memorized portion? So does anyone wants to read the memorized portion for the so I still haven't sent the third portion. So very sorry for that. I will make sure that whenever I can, I will send it. Other than that, does anyone wants to read?
Gemla?
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I can try. From beginning or just a portion, the last portion?
If you want, it would be wonderful if you could do it from the beginning.
Okay. Lama tong gunpo jetsun Drubpay la chaksalo. O aranapat sanati. Namo guru manju lo shaya la machodong yamepi. Jampi yang la gudune Tony lekshe son chupi. Ningpo dordu she parja. Yankee Jawa Selporu, Jepa Iu Eoshi, Seljekaso Sunchupi, Gangadana Bama A, Ralasanan Jejuk Chu, Dadong Sani Yangjukte, Danina Rala Suntong, Sani Gana Bama Tob, Gadabama Anyanjuk, Gongodono Bomu O, Rolo Soto Lardute, Tsoxik Dadu Shekyanja, Shenaming Tajetunja. Suraruduna la tu, la Donampa duninte, Namienishi dun patang, Denitsekabnam la chu, Sasugabadata tu, Nadanamara la du, Atangta mera tangru. Kikigi iyingapo, Namie dukpa deldatang, Denam sata chengani, Namie sumpa chedate, Jotsunaba. Okay.
So to this point. So thank you very much, and please again a humble request to everyone to memorize it, and the assignments will be sent by tomorrow, and then I will try to send the portion, the memorization portion by tomorrow. And yes, if you have questions, make sure you send it in the group. I will check it there and try to answer. Your last question, I will post more on those when I get the reference. So thank you very much for joining in, and I'll see most of you, probably all of you, for Saturday class. So thank you, and tashidele.